All right, if the stream goes down, we'll call it for tonight, and I'll have to do some technical or some tech support here. But
So all I see is the Streamlab logo still.
oh
No
yes, yes,
video.
yes, I can actually fix that right here. So I still don't exactly get why this seems to be happening because on my other streaming channel, which is more video game streaming, I'll stream for like 4 hours straight, no issues. I,
But it's not through Streamlab, is it?
yeah, it's totally through Streamlabs, and I have a lot more stuff going on for that channel than I do here. So I don't know why it keeps crashing with us, and it's always at that like 50 minute to an hour mark every time.
So it's not you, it's me.
I'm not sure about that because we're running it now through Zoom and everything. I don't know exactly what it could possibly be. So if we go out this time, that we'll just go ahead and call it. He has an early flight in the morning anyway, so he's probably fingers crossed over there thinking like, oh, I can get out of this early. So let's jump right into this and see how long we got before it possibly kicks us out again here.
Yeah,
So
New Hampshire. Talk about New Hampshire.
New Hampshire, yes, exactly. I have it all pulled up, or I had it all pulled up, ready to go, and then of course all this. So New Hampshire, and we'll go ahead and pull this up real quick. Oh, it's cutting off the screen, kind of funny, but you can still see the names here. So it was kind of a tight race.
That cannot be right. That cannot be right because the speech I saw, I'm sure that Haley won because I saw her give a victory speech. So
Well,
there's no way that this is right.
don't you know the Republican primary was just to see who comes in second place? And hey, Haley's coming in second. I don't get me wrong. I will say 43% seems kind of high. However, there was an interesting thing I saw here. I'm going to pull this up. Exit polling by
70.
CNN shows
70.
70% of voters weren't even Republican. So before you say, oh, well, Haley actually did really well. I mean, look at this. She got close to beating Trump here. I mean, that's amazing. Well, in New Hampshire, independents can vote in the primary, and over 70% of her voters were independents. And not only were they independents, and this was even crazier to me. I have, well, no, okay, I got a couple other ones.
Don't say independent. Just say they were non-Republican because then it was mostly Democrats crossing over to just try to stick it to Trump.
Yes, and I had this pulled up earlier, but of course with the technical issues. So let me pull this up because there's people actually even admitting that they're Democrat and will vote for Biden in the actual election. They just voted for Haley to just screw over Trump. And it was surprising the amount of videos that came out of it. Now, not going to pull it up right now because, again, Lord knows how long we have because of the way the stream is crashing. But it's, maybe pulling up more tabs might not be the best idea. But they were doing interviews with people as they were exiting who said that they planned to vote for Biden in the general, but wanted to vote for Haley here just because they wanted to vote against Trump twice, I guess. So that is the majority of her support. And don't forget, many of the PACs that are supporting her are actually Democrat PACs. I think one of them officially suspended their
Today.
their support. Yep. And it was, and funny. At first, people were saying, "Oh, it shows that they don't believe in her anymore." It's like, no, they never believed in her. Vivek had it right when he came out and said, "No, what it is we called them out," and they realized they're doing more harm than good. Was the one that pulled out
today the guy that's like the LinkedIn founder or whatever?
Yeah, I think so. Right?
I think so, but again, don't hold me to it. It's been a long day. But I think so. But I did see that they had suspended their support, which that's usually the writing's really on the wall in South Carolina. And she's already talking about Super Tuesday. If she goes in and gets waxed in her own state and still stays into Super Tuesday, I don't know what that really says about her. That's just doesn't seem very bright on a lot of things.
I was about to say, do you expect her to stay in that long?
Well, she keeps saying she will, and that's what I said. If she stays in after getting completely destroyed in her own state, there's something else at play.
Well, I think what there is at play is the fact that she's planning or she's hoping that Trump gets completely removed from the ability to even run in the first place, and then she can step in. But if that happens, won't just go to the Republican convention and they'll decide from there. Basically, it won't be just whoever got the most delegates.
Yeah.
Which, if that's the case, I don't know why they wouldn't just go for DeSantis.
The base? Yeah. And why anger the base if you know that if that happens, it is going to be a contested convention, and you've got to have the core on your side if you want any chance. And
if the Republican
around,
Party was run by competent people who actually cared about the people they represent, if that did come to pass, I think they would actually pick Vivek over DeSantis. And not because I just like Vivek, but because you have to get the Trump supporters aboard, and you also have to still call out the fact of, hey, this is a Banana Republic style attack against Trump. You cannot allow them to win at that game whatsoever. And so you have to appoint someone who is the most Trump-like, which would, in this case, be Vivek. He's the only one who, like, the Trump base actually really likes. But they would never even consider that, because obviously the Republican establishment over there, they're not, they have no concern with the MAGA movement whatsoever. In fact, they would rather it to be completely demolished, to be honest. They would rather go back to the Bush days.
You don't have any faith in Ronna Romney running the party where it needs to go, as opposed to running it in the ground like she's done ever since she's been there. And she was totally backed and supported by one Donald J. Trump, which is ridiculous.
Well, you remember when Vivek completely called her out, like, viciously on the debate stage?
Of course I do. That was one of the few times that your Trump plant Vivek actually stood up to him.
Again, I think Vivek is a genuine guy. I really do. And it's funny when you have all these people going out in New Hampshire, especially when they were all doing their endorsement speeches and things like that behind Trump. I still say Vivek was the best of them all. I know you got Tim Scott up there. I guess there was some drama involving that, and to me it looked very benign personally. I think Trump pointed out
Tim Scott's looked very staged and over. It was very ham-fisted. It just was weird. Vivek is smooth. I'll give him that. And when he got up and Trump gave him his 1 minute to lay into Nikki Haley, he laid it in and laid it on, and it was good. But he's polished, man. He can do that. He's a polished speaker. Now, whether I can believe him or not, sometimes I wonder. But mostly I do.
I like the guy. What there is not to believe.
I like the guy, and I just don't think it's. I don't have the track record. I've got one guy I know is going to step up and lead from strength, and that's what I want.
So you would want Vivek to be governor first, and then prove himself, and then be president?
No, I don't believe there has to be a political path like that for sure. I love the days when we were putting farmers in. that's what we need to get back to. No more lawyers and no more career politicians.
What was that thing where eventually you become so intelligent you're frankly just stupid? Like you become too intelligent for your own good. You just lose all common sense. There is a lot of truth to it.
Definitely in short supply.
Yeah, there is a lot of truth to it though, where it's like some people become overly educated to a point where they almost think that they can rise above the natural order of things at times, while people who are more down to earth have that wisdom that's actually needed when it comes to running things. So there is some truth actually just putting up, again, at least at that time, farmers. And now, I mean, I still think it would be better, but let's face it, back then they were a different breed. And if you're going to be on the frontier out there and handling everything that comes with that, I mean, you were a strong person.
Yeah, but even back then, our lawyers were a different breed.
Oh yeah, I mean, you mentioned John Adams last stream about just him standing up to the mob and actually, fighting for the due process rights of the British. I mean, that is impressive, like super impressive. And it's something that I think I was saying then that probably we will not see again for a long time. I mean, that was It's fine. The more I read John Adams, again, I don't fully agree with everything he has to say, but I do think I actually now lean more towards him than Jefferson, which I never thought I would ever say. His warnings of democracy, man. When you attack democracy, you get me.
My heart is still with Jefferson, but I've
The-
lost my faith. I've lost my faith in the people.
Jefferson was far more elegant. He was far more, I think, moral overall. And his faith in the people is truly something to be admired. But as that one great African leader once said, that, democracy is government for the people and by the people. But sometimes the people are stupid. And he used a different word than stupid. Now, I will say, so when Trump won, did you see what MSNBC was doing?
No, I don't frequent that outlet, so I was not watching.
I'm gonna pull this up real quick.
I'm pretty sure Joy Reid was saying something really insightful.
Actually, this one was Rachel Maddow.
What's the difference?
So here we go.
Well,
so there we go. So this is part of the issue here. So Donald Trump saying that he won New Hampshire not only in previous primaries, but that he won New Hampshire in the general election is not true. Donald Trump did, to his credit, in 2016 win the New Hampshire.
So they intrude on his speech just to tell you about how, oh, he's lying about winning New Hampshire in the last election. And they just go on and on and on throughout his entire thing. And he did the same thing when Vivek was actually speaking too, where they started coming in going, no, they're wrong about, these anti-immigrant attacks. We cannot air these sort of things. This is terribly un-American. We cannot subject our audiences to such rhetoric. It's amazing how much they just constantly, at first they tried to get him out there as much as possible during 2016 elections. But they definitely have more of a fear of him this time by the fact of they are not allowing his message to get out whatsoever. I mean,
yeah, right up until the point he won the nomination for 2016, he was on MSNBC every freaking morning. He was
on like late night shows and stuff like that too, and they're letting them rub his hair and all that stuff. Like, I mean, they were trying to make him as likable as possible.
MSNBC was during that primary. MSNBC pimped him hard.
Yeah,
and then as soon as he won the nomination, they turned on him and they've never looked back.
And again, they want to do whatever they can to censor him or anyone else when they talk about anything involving the election, anything involving about the border. There was a great fictional philosopher, Tyrion Lannister. You might have heard of him. He said, when you tear out a man's tongue, you're not proving him a liar. You're only telling the world that you fear what he has to say. And as funny as it is that coming from Game of Thrones and Tyrion of all people, there is a extreme truth to that statement. There really is. And obviously there's actual quotes in history that are basically pointing out the same general thing. But of course, I love the way Tyrion puts it in the book.
Goes back to Cicero.
Yes, exactly. And but there is a lot of truth to it in the sense of, even if they're spreading falsehoods, let's say they are telling things that are completely untrue. When you try to censor them, all that does is make people say, oh, wait a second, well, why can't I hear what they have to say? Why am I not allowed to hear what they have to say? And that adds even more validation to what they're saying. I've said this has been a problem when it comes to the way that social media actually bans actual white supremacists on their platforms while allowing black supremacists to still run wild. Because when they start banning them, there are a segment of people who then hear these talking points from white supremacists and think, well, that does make a little bit of sense. Because they never had the opportunity to hear the alternative, because the first talking point has been completely removed from all conversation. So when white supremacists go out and spread the message that, well, black people are inherently violent because of X, Y, and Z, they've yet to hear any counterpoint to that argument. That's what happens when you ban these sort of people. You cannot be banning them. Sunlight is the best disinfectant for bad ideas. You have to allow them to speak, so that way we can call them out on their BS. So even if you completely think what's being said is entirely wrong, you have to allow it to be said. And, I mean, I think we're both close to free speech absolutists when it comes to most things, right?
Oh yeah, I'm not arguing against you on this point for sure.
No, I
No, it
100%
just
do. No, go
no,
on.
I think you got to let people show who they really are, and when they say it, you need to daggone well believe it, and instead of saying, "Well, they didn't really mean that." Just let them say who they are, and then refute it with a better argument.
And, I've had a couple of, a couple of the shorts I was saying that, I disagree with a lot of these kind of laws that ban these people from expressing their ideas, or of course I believe they have the First Amendment right to associate with who they want to. And I see a couple comments pop up there saying, oh, just secretly a racist. And it's like, no, I don't know. Why do you want them to hide? Why do you want to hide them away from the public? Like, why do you want me to still give money to them? Why do you want me to still, act like, I'm friends with them because I don't know their true thoughts? So I want them to spread it out because I want to know who to avoid. I want to know who I do not need to shop at. I want to know who I need to criticize. So I want them to spread their opinions as much as possible. I will say this, as much as I might be a free speech absolutist, freedom of expression is some of the biggest BS I've ever heard. It does not exist. No one actually believes in it whatsoever, because if you did, you could justify any heinous action in public by just saying, well, it's their right to express themselves. I mean, think of the worst possible thing a human could do, and you could justify it under freedom of expression. So freedom of expression, total BS, does not actually exist in our Constitution. Freedom of speech, however, is all-encompassing.
It is actually defended very heavily with some pretty heinous things on the left. They're allowed to do a lot of things in public that you shouldn't be allowed to do in public because, well, it's their First Amendment right to do that.
I was talking with a friend about the difference between freedom of expression and freedom of speech, and because I was saying that no, there's some things you cannot allow in public. It doesn't matter if it's expression or not. And he said, well, how can you say that? You're for ultimate free speech. I'm like, because speech and expression are completely two different things. People can justify anything for freedom of expression. People say, them going around naked is freedom of expression. They say pornography is freedom of expression. That you can justify whatever you want through freedom of expression. And so we all believe there's a limit to that, because no one would be okay with two people, going around flashing people in a children's park, right? We know there's a limit to what you can do in public. No one actually believes in freedom of expression. What do we believe is that we should be very open to expression. We should be, we should side more often than not on allowing people to express themselves, but we don't believe it as a right. We just simply believe it as more, and we actually do believe that one to be more as a privilege than anything else, while freedom of speech is a right.
You don't think our friends on the modern American left wouldn't defend the right of freedom of expression to expose yourself in front of kids? They're allowing
it's
it
just
all over
the human body, don't you know?
They're perfectly forward. So when you say that's obviously unacceptable, well, it's not obviously unacceptable anymore. It should be.
I mean, for them, it's acceptable to crap in the streets. So I mean, but as they want to go all out with freedom of expression because it can allow them to justify doing whatever they want, while at the same time trying to silence people through the freedom of speech because they don't want to hear opinions they don't want. You know what I mean?
No, it's the First Amendment is lengthy, and it just kind of goes on and on and on, and they seem to pick and choose the ones they like. So we don't like the freedom of association at all. So you got to get rid of that.
Doesn't exist anymore. We do not have that right at all.
Freedom of speech is too dangerous. We can't allow that. But freedom of expression, we can just kind of write that one in and let it fit whatever we want it to mean. So
don't you know the Constitution is a living document?
Yeah. Oh, I've heard, but at least Trump appoints strict constitutionalists who will stand up for what's right.
Gorsuch was good. Gorsuch was good.
He's had a couple of misfires. Don't give him all the credit.
Which one do you have a misfire on? I can't really think of it. I know Kavanaugh did.
Maybe I'm confusing the two.
He might have. He really might have.
Because I think it was Kavanaugh that I was thinking of.
But I will say this: Trump's judges have still been better than most. So and this is the first thing I've seen ACB do that made me wonder about her. So I'm not going to call her slack, but I'm at least still going to say, at least he didn't appoint Roberts.
This is true. He only associates with the best people, so I'm sure it's going to all work out.
So,
Bush.
do what?
You said who appointed Roberts? Bush.
Was it Bush Senior or Junior though? That's what I was wondering. I knew it was a Bush.
Junior.
Junior. Okay. Well, he's only been in for that long.
Mm-hmm.
Man, we probably got a long ways to wait for him then.
But I mean, you say it's only been that long. You understand we're 20 years. It's been a while.
I think someone pointed out the fact of when you're listening to like 90s music, like that's over 30 years old at this point. Like, well, yeah, all right. I will say it is funny. People in my generation are clearly not coping well with the fact we're getting old because, like, my God, you look online and look all the crazy things people are doing when it comes to like plastic surgeries. Like, we've skyrocketed when it comes to that sort of stuff. I don't know what's wrong with my generation. I've said that my entire life, I think, but again, we are not aging well at all. It seems, or we're at the very least not maturing at all. I would say, but I think that's because almost no one in my generation is having kids, and I can easily say that having kids has definitely matured me.
I'm privileged to be a part of the last generation that was raised right.
Because you're technically Gen X, right?
We're offended by nothing.
Are you still technically Gen X?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I forgot where Gen X ends and where it kind of begins and all that.
It ends somewhere in the early 70s.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, yeah, so you're Gen X. Yeah, everyone forgets about Gen X because y'all just kind of did y'all's thing.
it was a small group, especially after the boom right before us. But so yeah, we're kind of the forgotten generation. But we were raised with real comedy that was nobody was insulted. Everything was funny.
Blazing Saddles.
Yeah. Movies like Blazing Saddles and.
Well, at the same time, it's y'all's generation that also created stuff like Tropic Thunder and also some of the good comedies in the early 2000s that was at the beginning of my generation as well.
It's also my generation that raised you bunch of knuckleheads that came behind us. So
I know. And hey, people are going to be saying the same thing about who raised Gen Z and stuff like that. Well, it was the older millennials, and I'm not sure how Gen Alpha is going to be. I'll try to do my part in making sure they don't end up too crazy. So I have Junior over there, American flag boxing gloves, beating up a dinosaur thing, inflatable thing, while Rocky's playing in the background. So I'm doing my part.
Well, I thought it was funny. I got the message from Rhonda. She told me y'all were coming to visit, and she said, "Yeah, the people at church were asking it. Are they bringing that really smart little boy?" They remembered Junior going to Sunday school and how advanced he was. So that made a papa kind of proud. That was fun.
Yeah, now he does things that almost makes him seem the opposite because he sits there and he does things like just start yelling pickle at random and things because Cat's got him loving pickles. So. However, I got him. He's no longer watching Frozen all the time. He's watching Lion King like he should be. So he's watching Lion King and watching Rocky.
Well, with your two kids here at the house, I watched Frozen for the first time ever, and it wasn't the worst thing I've ever watched. And they loved it, and having them sitting on the couch with us was like one of the best nights I've had in a long, long time. So that was pretty cool.
Again, Frozen 1, not too much propaganda. It's in there, but not too much propaganda, not too much woke nonsense. A lot of it can still somewhat be justified through the story, just telling in general. The second one, straight propaganda. Again, the white ladies have to come to terms with their ancestral guilt of displacing native people, and it's just awful. It's absolutely. I've told Kat, you're not playing Frozen 2 in front of them. You're just not doing it. You also need to stop playing Horton Hears a Who and all that crap too. Just absolute garbage stuff. Oh man, I hate it so much. It's like, well, what can I have him watch? I'm like, he can watch Bluey. There you go. That's something new he can watch.
We did watch Bluey.
They came out with some new episodes, and it was a whole episode where he's terrible or not terrible, but bad at drawing, and the mom literally tells him, "Yeah, you're not that good because you're 5 and you can still get better." And I'm like, man, every other show I keep saying or hearing in general always tells the kid like, "You're great, you're fantastic." No, they told Bluey, "No, you're right, you're not that great right now, but that's okay. You can get better." Positive messages. One of the few good one of the few good new shows out there.
Isn't that produced in Australia?
It is, of all things. You would not expect that to be the thing that would have like a lot of traditional values.
Now, especially the left, they turned hard left during the COVID and since.
I know, and especially like all their broadcasting obviously is normally pretty far left. But I mean, people make like compilations of some of the crazy leftist garbage they show on television over there. I mean, it's nuts. Somehow, though, their biggest kids show is extremely traditional in many respects. I mean, sure, it has some new agey parenting stuff every now and again, but for the most part, it's just common sense crap, like as it should be. And with two parents in the household,
one of the articles,
with a dad who's very much respected.
One of the articles that was kind of criticizing Bluey, because I was like, what has Bluey done now? It was all about the positive portrayal of a dad in the household. And that was the negative part.
And the other negative I saw was they have an episode where the dad realizes he's fat and needs to lose weight.
I saw that one with the kids here. That was pretty good one.
Yeah. And that episode now officially aired on Disney Plus because they brought in some more episodes. But no, it's strange that that's actually one that Australia of all places has the best kids show. So, I mean, I guess you have Daily Wire, Bentkey also has their stuff too, which is awesome. And he loves that Mabel McClay show, which is just a combination of Mr. Rogers and a little bit of Pee Wee Herman mixed in there too. So
is that the one that got him saying pickle when he counts?
No, that's Miss Rachel. That's just a YouTube show, which again, though, is very, very kind of just straightforward, kind of boring and just educational for the most part, yet kids seem to love it. So I will say the fact they have a woman there who I guess is technically a they, them, but they never acknowledge it anywhere there. So as long as they don't acknowledge it and all she does is play guitar, I'm like, all right, I really don't care at that point. She's a tomboy, all right? Just get over it. Just don't start lecturing to them about what that means.
The plural pronouns for singular people still just bugs me to no end.
That is, I know people who are on the left who think that's insane. So I love the post that come up afterwards of, whenever demons possess people, they always address themselves as they and them.
Yep. And we are legion.
So no, you gotta go. So I want to pull up one more thing. I had a few other things we could pull up, but since we're kind of in this general line of conversation, I think this still fits and will be kind of quick to talk about too. This was a TikTok. Tony, can you hear anything over there?
I can't hear it when you play.
Okay, so I'll play it and kind of sum it up. So basically they're saying that having self-control is a form of oppression and that it's almost a colonist way of thinking of things. So I'll just play a bit of it here real quick.
One of the many ways that colonial mental health, wellness, self-help culture shows up in our society is through the framework of control, power, and domination. And the way that looks like is using verbiage like, we just need to be able to control our thoughts, our feelings, our mind, our bodies. This idea that you need to force yourself into a state of discomfort in order to regulate your emotions. And ultimately, this extends into the medical and psychiatric industrial complex where these very tools of force are used as an extension of policing, of coloniality, of systems of oppression that are at play. Tactics of domination can never be used to heal from complex trauma and ongoing forms of trauma that the marginalized are experiencing on an everyday basis. And it becomes dangerous when we conflate things like regulating our emotions with controlling them.
So I just realized that you can actually see the subtitles there. So were you able to read that?
Yeah, well, I should have put my glasses on. I could see bits and pieces though.
Yeah, so the whole, I love what she says, you shouldn't be trying to force yourself into discomfort, and all I'm thinking is like David Goggins, who's going to carry the boats?
You got to callous your mind.
Yeah, exactly. It's part of this mindset that a lot of them seem to have about the fact of you're not supposed to control your emotions. Of course, I know we both love Marcus Aurelius and the Meditations, where a lot of it really is about not, of course, because a lot of people think stuff like Stoicism is trying to remove your emotions when the reality is it's just not letting them rule you. You know what I mean? And they want to constantly go against that every chance they get because, let's face it, they're mentally unstable and they just shout and they throw tantrums, right? And saying no, that's not right, of course, irritates them a lot. But the whole idea that it's a colonist way of thinking to control, it's part of white supremacy. It's, colonial thinking to control your emotions. That's just the most insulting thing I could possibly think to like Africans or Asians or any of them, that only white people can control our emotions. Only white people can actually be stoic. No. That doesn't exist with Asians or blacks. Only white people do that sort of stuff. It is really insane how racist the left really is towards everyone other than white, while at the same time pretending to be completely in favor of all those other groups.
No, and I think that message is going out as the epitome of evil in our time, because it is so giving in to ego, to pursuit of carnal pleasures, and anything goes. And so I think that entire rant is the epitome of evil in our time.
And it definitely is. And she's not alone with it. You can find video after video after video of people talking about how, no, you need to express yourself as openly as possible. And it's the whole thing of they take what sounds like something that's actually pretty good to hear of, hey, you should get in tune with your emotions. You should express yourself.
Be your authentic self. Be your authentic self is a little different than what they're preaching.
Yeah, exactly. Well, here's the thing of, be your authentic self, but if your authentic self kind of sucks, you need to improve yourself, okay? Like, let's just be real. I mean, I think it was, I forget who said it was, if you meet 10 people and all of them think you're an asshole, chances are you're probably an asshole. Like, this idea that you shouldn't improve is just bewildering to me. And I heard this quite a bit, actually, when I was in high school, when I was still dealing with like some issues involving like kind of depression and anxiety and stuff like that, where people just kept telling me, like, especially kind of in my friend group who was kind of also kind of in that kind of world, they're saying, oh no, you got to roll with it because it's just who you are and there's nothing you're ever going to do to really get out of that sort of stuff. It's a part of you and all this stuff. And it was, thankfully I took more of your advice and read stuff like John Maxwell and Zig Ziglar and started actually changing the way I thought about things to help overcome a lot of those problems I was having. And what do you know? Now I like to think I'm very much a glass half full kind of guy. But this whole idea that you shouldn't try to strive to improve yourself, you shouldn't put yourself in any form of discomfort whatsoever, is just so bizarre to me, especially when you have countless examples of what actually does create good people, what actually does create good outcomes. It's always going through some sort of struggle, learning from it, and improving yourself because of that. And it's really funny because throughout all this, I also kind of just looking at my screen there and glancing behind me, I have the Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Dichotomy of Leadership also back over there as well, which is just nothing but that exact very lesson of just taking responsibility for everything around you, putting yourself in tough situations, and improving yourself daily.
Yep. That's what I live by. It's what I teach. I'm a firm believer that each one of us are the cause and the solution of every problem we could ever encounter. It's maybe something in our life ain't our fault, but how we respond and the things around it, that's our responsibility. And that's where we have to step up and do things different. But so much of this way of thinking, I want you to expand your thinking just a little bit. Glass half full that's a limited way of thinking. It doesn't matter what's in your glass because we live in a world of faucets. I can have whatever I want in my glass. And this world is filled with abundance. And that's the kind of mindset we have to have, is the world is full of abundance. And each one of us are worthy. Each one of us are capable. And it's just up to us to make the right choices, take the right actions, and over time we will become what it is we are to become. But it's a process, and stop limiting that thinking and thinking in a scarce mindset, because we don't live in a world of scarcity.
So basically, even no matter how bad of a hand you have, you can keep drawing cards, you can keep expanding it, you can find something eventually as long as you keep working at it.
There's a new deal. There's a new game. It doesn't mean you got to keep playing a bad hand. You play the cards you're dealt and you move on.
Well, I mean, isn't it funny that all this type of ideology, though, that kind of goes against what you're saying, comes from the same people who when it comes to every other issue, thinks very similarly in the sense of, you look at the economy. They look at it as someone has to lose in order for you to win. It's a very set
zero
pie,
sum.
right? Yeah,
zero sum.
Instead of looking at it as a bakery, they look at it as just one pie and that's it. And if I accomplish something positive, it means I had to have harmed someone in a negative way.
So one of the books I had you go through early on was Free to Choose, and hopefully one of the lessons you took from Free to Choose is one of the problems that our government agencies have is they have that mindset, and so they think that we're going to do this change and it's only going to affect this one thing because they overlook the big picture and the ripple effects. It's why Clinton can come in and create a luxury tax on expensive boats and thinking that's going to really bring in income to the government, when in reality it brought in less income and it lost a lot of jobs. And so because it had a ripple effect, it's not a zero sum game. It's not I win, you lose. We live in a world of abundance. We live in a world of opportunity, and it's open for, and at least for right now in this country, it is open for anyone. Now, if we want to talk problems of systemic racism and some of the other things that people on the right try to avoid, I don't think we should avoid it. If we want to look at where systemic racism really exists in this world today, in our country today, it's in our leftist cities, in minority predominant areas, in those public schools.
Oh, 100%.
There is a tremendous barrier. And those are the kind of things we need to talk about, because those kids need to hear the message that the world isn't out to get you, but you've got a tough road ahead. But there is a path.
When Trump was running in 2020, one of his big things he was constantly pushing was the charter school programs for a lot of the inner city areas. And it's funny, whenever Republicans actually propose issues or propose solutions to a lot of these issues, instantly it has to be racist, right? It has to be racist. It has to be evil. Oh, he just wants to get rid of public school teachers. Oh, he just hates the public school system. And no, what he wants is in that case, to make sure people have options to help better improve their status in life and, going further. For one, I mean, let's face it, we could do hours talking about how terrible the public school system is as a whole. But I mean, you're 100% right that when you look at a lot of these inner cities and how they're set up, I mean, it's awful. It's absolutely terrible. And there's
definitely not a message of hope. There's definitely not a message of hope that should be there.
Well, and with all the crime that takes place in there and teachers who don't care, how can there be?
Well, there still can be, because there's still people that are rising up. I mean, you look at Ben Carson and what he came from and what he had. So there are examples that prove that you can come from bad situation and make something of yourself. But the problem is there's not enough of them.
Family first. That's what that's what saved him.
There's not enough of them, and there's definitely not a focus on a family the way it should be. But
that's where the culture has to come in.
Well, it's going to be a tough row ahead for us to win that battle, but we need to be in the arena fighting it. I mean, because it's a worthy battle. The destruction. I mean, BLM itself said that their goal until they clean their website was the destruction of the nuclear family. That was on their list of things to accomplish because it's a Marxist principle, and they clearly were a Marxist organization.
Yeah,
till they cleaned the website.
Well, that's one thing. Our church was very open about.
We have got to fight that battle. We cannot stop the fight on that battle. The nuclear family is got to be our key focus.
The Republicans are afraid to even have that discussion because they're afraid they're going to lose black support and all that kind of stuff. And for one, you already got so little. What do you got to lose? I'm sorry. But
that 4% ain't going to make a difference. Go forth, and they're with you already. That 4% is with you already on this topic.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Then you have a church like the church that me and Kat go to, where they went heavy against Black Lives Matter. I know some people don't like churches getting involved politically whatsoever, but I kind of am on the side of, historically speaking, the church has always been politically active. They're supposed to be a voice to help, guide the morality of whatever country they're in. I'm all for it. But they went heavy against Black Lives Matter, saying, of course, they're a Marxist organization. They want the abolition of the nuclear family. They're totally against any form of religion, as all communists are. And they were straight up saying, no, they are commies, and all commies are evil, which may be why I love our church so much. But
everything that you just said. Hey, hang on, everything you just said right up until the commie part was straight from their own website.
Yes.
So this isn't propaganda. It wasn't made up. That was straight on their website until they scrubbed it.
Exactly. But here's the funny thing, our church was vehemently against them. And according to the church, around that time period, almost instantly there was a massive loss in people. I think they said it was like 30%, 40%, big number like that. But then pretty soon after, we were up by like 70% soon after that. So, they stuck to the truth. And what do you know? They lost some people at first, yes, and that's going to happen. But they gained the people who actually heard that truth and wanted to be a part of it. And politicians can learn a similar lesson there that, yes, in the short term, you're going to have the media attack you. You're going to lose some points.
Before you get too far, you didn't just gain white folks either.
Exactly.
I've been to that church. It is a very multicultural church.
It's nearly like 50% black at this point. Or it's 50, maybe it's like 50%, it's like 50% white, and then everyone else is of different races, but obviously there's quite a few black people in the crowd too. And guess who's the ones who are the most vehemently opposed to Black Lives Matter in that church? It's the black folks, and they're the ones that they will shout amen anytime anyone says anything bad about Black Lives Matter up there. Like they despise them. But finally, someone's actually giving, of course, that message of truth. And what do you know? People do respond to the message of truth. And we saw that with Trump, where he actually did gain votes in the black community by simply going there and saying things as simple as, listen, you've been voting Democrat for, generations, and look at where it's got you. What do you really got to lose here? And that was appealing to people.
This started with that ridiculous leftist rant about just about everything is about me and my self-expression and it's colonialist for you to tell me to control my emotions and my speech and myself. And so we kind of went off on a tangent from that. But it all ties back together because that is the message that far too often is winning out over the message of family, community. And we've got to get back to the core. What does America even stand for anymore? The reason it's not a melting pot anymore is we don't have a core. There's no core left in this country, and we've got to figure out who we are. And then some of us are going to have to make a tough decision because maybe it's going to turn out that we're not who we think they are,
and
who we think we are.
I know people want to say, well, we haven't been this divided since the Civil War. I would actually warrant to say that we're almost more divided now than even then. At least back then, there were still some things we could still unite around. I mean, yes, there was we're not at the point where, well, I mean, in a way we are killing each other in the streets. I mean, you have Trump supporters literally being shot in the streets by people in certain instances, like in Portland. However, at least back then, yeah, exactly. But you see what they say about people like that. I mean, anytime someone, they wanted a death penalty for Kyle Rittenhouse for defending himself against, I guess we won't go too much detail with that, but I mean, if they could get away with killing, Republicans, I really do believe a lot of them would. At least back then, though, we could still unify under some basic principles of family and religion, right? Those were two things that whether you were in the North or you were South, you still believed in for the most part. For the most part, you go to the North, you will still saw the strong family union. You still will saw people just wanting the best for their kids and all that. You go to the South, you will saw the same thing. There was still something at the end of the war that we could still come together with. Now, what do we really even have remotely that we can actually come together on? Like, what fundamental value can people of the left and the right still agree on in this country? Because I can't think of
the fact that in 1865, 66, 67, the fact that the country did come back together and unite again as one, that's a tremendous story in history because that doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. And so I think you make a point here. Let's say that something does happen with Texas, and I don't think this is going to happen. So don't. But we're playing the hypotheticals here. Let's say that Texas and Louisiana decide, okay, that's enough. We're done. We're getting out. I don't know that there's anything. I really don't know that there's anything that would unite everybody back again. And it would have to be purely economic and self-serving in some way. But those are two very resource rich states. So I don't know.
You know, I hate to end the stream on a depressing note like that. Is there anything uplifting you can say?
Well, I still believe in a message of hope. I believe we live in a world of possibility and abundance, and it's up to each one of us to make the right choices, decisions to make our lives the best they can be. And so the hard part is it's those magic 11 words, those 11 two-letter words. If it is to be, it is up to me. And that's how each one of us are going to have to live. You know, I love Viktor Frankl and A Man's Search for Meaning. But he said that we should have a companion statue to the Statue of Liberty on the West Coast called the Statue of Responsibility, because you can't have one without the other. And
That's excellent. I like
I think
that.
I think that's where we are right now. Is some of us just need to step up and lead ourselves first, and lead our communities after that.
So a call to action for self-improvement. I can end the stream on that. All right, perfect. All right, well, I know you got an early flight, and I've already kept you up too late, so we'll go ahead and call it here. Anyone watching this after the fact, try to be live on Wednesdays, normally around 9 to 9:30 is when we hop on, depending if there's an NC State game or not, I guess. But
Well, the way those things are trending, I'm not even going to turn them on anymore. We scored
Either way,
15 flipping points. We scored 15 flipping points in the whole first half.
Well, we'll be posting clips and videos throughout the week still, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Thanks for everyone who's subscribed as well. We just crossed 500 subscribers now, so yay, thank you so much. And hope to reach that 1,000 mark sometime soon. So thanks again. We'll be